and welcome to Conversations with Reverend G. I am Reverend Grenetta Mason, aka Reverend G, and I'm here every Monday night live with WEMS Radio, bringing you conversations with guests from all walks of life with different perspectives. We come together and we talk about love, we talk about life, and we also talk about spirituality. We talk about spirituality from a practical point of view. How does it support you in your everyday life? What are some of the go to tools that you can use when you're stressed, when you need some peace? What things and what tools support you in those moments? We talk about spirituality from a creative process. What creative tools also support you? Spirituality can be seen in many different ways. As an interfaith minister, I've looked at different types of religions, all religions. I've studied our religions, and I realized that we all are going for the same goal. And that goal is pretty much connection. And we look for connection everywhere. Tonight, I'm excited to have a great guest, and we'll talk about what connection looks like. You can find me every day on Facebook as Reverend Grenetta Mason. I'm on Instagram as Rev Grenetta with inspirational messages that support you every day throughout the day. I post them in the morning, but you can go back to them and use them to uplift you. And one of my goals is to support you in bringing out the joy that's readily available to you and embracing joy with grace and ease. So tonight I have Miss Tanja Mitchell. Tanja is the owner and the CEO of Mitchell Consulting. She's also a community activist. She's a connector, and I'm excited to talk to her about the different projects that she's working on. Hey, Tanja, welcome to the show.
And me.
Hello.
Hello. I
How?
loved your introduction. I love the way you talked about spirituality and love and life and connections. I'm like, oh, I want to talk about that first.
Yes, well, let's talk about that, right? Love and life, and yeah, because what comes to mind immediately when I talk about that is if we talk about love, what does that really look like, right? And get into we have a lot of different definitions for love, and I think that everything points back to love, right? I feel like love is like this top, right? And under that is compassion, empathy, kindness. All these things come back to love. And I think that love is the universal spirituality because throughout all the different religions, throughout all the different practices, love is pretty prevalent. And it's interesting we talk about that because when I talk about people with kids now, and we talk about, so what are you teaching your kids? Because of our religious experience and then our experiences through life, how and what are we teaching our kids? And the people that have the younger kids, right? It's really a lot around love. I'm going to teach them to be kind. I'm going to teach them to love. And then I think the religious part of it, the ritual and keeping tradition, that part of it is exciting and is good. And I think that kids get to share in those, traditions and those rituals. That's
Right.
what comes to mind when I talk about, when we talk about love.
If you remember the last time I was on the show, I was talking about being in therapy because
Mm-hmm.
I'm unpacking religious beliefs.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yes.
And that was, so has that been a year, 6 months more? So talk about that journey from have you started to unpack them? What's been the impact of the therapy, and can you talk about where you are now?
Well, I'm still in therapy.
Okay.
Okay, I think I'll be in therapy the rest of my life. Which is- That's
It's,
okay.
that's okay. Whatever
Therapy can
works.
come in many forms.
Yeah,
It's,
absolutely.
it's
I was
just
gonna say
not laying
whatever.
on a couch
Right. It's
or a
not.
Zoom meeting,
Right.
right?
Therapy is can mean a lot. It's a big word too, right?
It's a big word, right? And we'll have another show to unpack the word therapy and what that looks like.
Right.
Right. But yes, I was raised in a very religious household. My mother died when I was 5. My grandparents raised me, and my grandmother was very religious, super strict,
Mhm.
but she raised me the way she knew how to raise me. I
Mhm.
don't fault her for
Mhm.
that,
Mhm. Mhm.
but I spent a lot of my time waiting to go to hell.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
that's not a good life. And that's not how a young adult should live her life,
Yeah.
live her life.
Right.
And so, I couldn't wear the lipstick.
Mhm.
Oh God, these big hoops I have on tonight, that would have
Mhm.
sent me straight to hell.
Mhm. Mhm. Mhm.
The ruby woo lipstick,
Mhm.
yeah, the pants.
Mhm.
So I had to unlearn all of that and realize that God is love. And I put it in the perspective that, okay, the Bible says that we are as filthy rags.
Mhm.
Okay, so if I am indeed a filthy rag
Mhm.
and I know how to love my children,
Mhm.
and I love them unconditionally. And there's nothing that they can do that's going to make me stop loving them.
Mhm. Mhm.
But I'm filthy rags.
Mhm.
So if I know how to love them unconditionally,
Mhm.
what about the creator who created us, who created me, who created you?
Mhm.
Surely that creator loves us unconditionally if I wear the big hoops
Mhm.
or the ruby woo lipstick, the
Right.
creator's still going to love me. And
Mhm.
so that has helped me a lot. And I, for years, I lived ready to go to hell. And then I
Mhm.
had a pastor. My mom died when she was 24.
Mhm.
And my pastor said, if you don't get right, and get right meant stop
Mhm.
wearing the pants and lipstick and stuff.
Mhm.
Said, if you don't get right, you're not going to live past your mother. So by this time, I'm waiting 24 to die
Wow.
and go straight to hell and bust that wide open.
How did you rebel against all that? Were you just like this strict good person just waiting to die, or did you live and say, "Oh, forgive me," right? I hope I
I'm
don't
like, you
go to
know
hell.
what?
What?
If I'm going to hell, I'm going with some gasoline draws on. Yeah,
Okay. All right.
yeah. And I had my fun and I
Mm.
did what 24-year-olds, young adults do.
Oh, okay. Mhm. Mhm.
Yeah, and after 24, it was on and popping. I'm saying, oh, I'm still here.
Mhm. Mhm. Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
yeah,
It's
I'm
just.
still unpacking that, and it's
Mhm.
still some of the things that I do. And if something bad happens in my life, I'm like, oh, is it because I did X, Y, and Z? No, life
Mhm.
happens.
Mhm.
Good, the
Mhm.
bad, the ugly.
Mhm. Mhm.
Count it all joy. Life happens. And
Mhm.
so now I'm learning to embrace even the bad times.
Yeah.
So
Because they only as bad as we make them. It feels like, and I say that because of this training I'm doing is called positive intelligence. And everything
mhm,
that happens, we say, look for the gift or the opportunity in everything that happens. And if you can shift that moment from the whatever happened, anything that happens, right?
right.
Then you can shift your thinking towards another way. And then I think that for me, I know that thoughts create. and energy creates. So the more you are woe is me on the negative side of any situation, the more you'll attract more of that, right? So
Right. And I will admit, 2022
mm-hmm.
has been a roller coaster.
Mm-hmm.
Highs, lows.
Mm-hmm.
But by around about August, when I there was another low,
Mm-hmm.
I said, you know what? Let me take this opportunity and put this. And that's when I really opened the doors to Mitchell Consulting. I was doing Mitchell Consulting from my home.
Mm-hmm.
But as I was writing grants and I found out I needed a physical location.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
so when that August low came, I said, let me put all my energy and focus not into what happened, but into my business. And
Mm-hmm.
Reverend G, when I tell you that I changed my mind to that positive mindset, I
Mm-hmm.
mean, things just started going effortlessly.
Yeah,
Like I
that's a,
needed to
I love that
furnish.
word, effortlessly. That's why I call it
Yes,
grace and ease, right? Because you
yes,
don't have to do all the efforting, all of
right.
right, exactly. I
I
love
needed to furnish the place. It kind of
mm,
reminds me, my office kind of reminds me of a brownstone in New York. You have to go up some stairs, and it's just this big office. And I
mm,
needed to furnish the office, and I was getting calls like, I got to move tomorrow. Do you need a futon? Do you need some furniture?
wow,
Yes.
yeah,
And then
yeah.
another organization, we're getting new furniture. Do you need some furniture? Yes.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
And so
mm-hmm.
things just started falling into place. And I'm so grateful for that. And I
Yeah,
thank God for that.
yeah. I like that because um it talks about, for me, what I hear from all of that is when we talk about how do we manifest the things that we want in our lives, right? And on the back of it, you're saying, oh, it didn't take any effort. But what did it take? Was it a vision? Was it, it took something, right? And I always talk about just making a declaration about what you want, and
Right.
and being open to how it comes to you, right?
Right.
Just because the people came to you with the furniture, you were like, I have this place I need to furnish it. You didn't know where or how, right?
Right.
But you just visioned and knew that that would be it. And so that's all a part of, I think I was talking to a person one day and she was like, oh, I don't believe in all that manifestation because I wanted this and it didn't happen, right? It's hard to have conversations like that, right?
Right.
Right? Because you're not really trying to change anybody's mind about what they want. But, I found myself like, well, okay, right?
Right.
But I do feel, I mean, one of the principles I use is about speaking and declaring what I want, setting an intention. But now I've learned to not work so hard, not run around so much because you really don't have to. Because I think you miss a lot of it if you do and do and doing, right? Just kind of
Right.
be open to the people, and it may not come the way you think it's going to come, and that's sometimes how we miss some of the things and the opportunities too. We think it's just a
Right.
certain way.
I do remember at my previous job, I was speaking with the president, and she was saying like, "We're going to retire here, and we're going to," and I never was comfortable with that.
Mhm, mhm,
And I was like,
mhm,
"No, maybe you're going to retire from here," but
mhm,
that never settled in my soul. And so
mhm,
at that time, I was not intentional about starting, just go on and stepping
mhm,
out and doing it on
mhm,
my own.
mhm,
But unintentionally, the unsettling of my soul, that
mhm,
was
mhm,
unintentional.
mhm, mhm,
But
mhm,
I just knew no, because I've always said, you know what? My last job, I'm gonna be working for myself.
Yeah, there it is. You've always declared it. There was a declaration. If you've always said that, right?
That was
Then
the
it's
declaration, right?
right there, right? If you've always said that, then it had to come to pass in some way,
In
right?
some way, right?
Yeah,
Because it was
exactly.
already out there in the
Yeah.
universe.
And
Right.
it just made me think about if you really didn't believe you were going to hell, right? No.
I guess I didn't, because I didn't stop doing what I was doing.
Exactly right. You really didn't believe it was gonna help. Because hell never showed up for you after you tested it a few times and you didn't go to hell. You just kept saying, "Oh, well, let me keep testing to see when hell gonna get me." But
Right.
you
And
know,
not saying that I'm a bad person, because I have, you know me, I have a good heart. First, do no harm.
right,
I'm not going to do
exactly,
you any harm. If I think I'm
right,
going to do you some harm, I'm going to leave you alone or get you out of my life,
right,
because
exactly,
that might be testing hell right there. So, first, do no harm.
right.
So, as long as I'm not doing anyone any harm and my intentions are well, and naturally I'm a giver, naturally I want to help people.
Hmm.
And so if I turn up a little bit and have a little fun, I think I'm all right.
Yeah, that I mean, it's really you. It's really what we think. We take on what people say, but in the end, it's really what we think, right? And
Right.
um, yeah, it's all that. So,
Right. I read something the other day and it said, "What will they remember?"
mm,
And
mm,
so I try to live a life where people remember she was funny, she was fun, she tried to help you,
right, exactly.
she did no harm.
Right, right. She did.
What will they remember?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
That
mm-hmm.
really stuck with me.
Hmm. You
Mm,
know, when you say did no harm, what comes to me is the Wiccan philosophy is to harm no one, right? That's one of their main principles. But if you compare that to Christianity told us that the Wiccans and the witches were the bad people and that we shouldn't. But if you see, that's why I say in instances we have the same principles going, you
right,
know, from one religion to the next religion. So then we get to come to, and I think that's how spirituality has grown because you see
yes,
so many different aspects coming into yoga and art and dance and everything that. And you said earlier about touching your soul. It is about a soul connection, right?
right,
And then how do we get that peace in our soul? What practices do we have? What individual practices do we have to find that peace? Because from that peace, everything flows.
exactly.
And I think, and we always looking for that peace and happiness. Those are the two things, right? You want to be happy and you want to find peace.
Right. Well, Al Green said love and happiness.
Love and happiness, love and happiness, right? All of them, love and happiness and peace, right? You know,
Right. And then there's that other saying, if mama ain't happy, ain't nobody happy. So my and that's the truth.
for in the house, you mean in the household, mama
In
not
the household, outside, at work.
happy. Yeah, it is. It's really interesting how we live and how the things our whole life we're still living it out, impacting like you're unpacking the whole thing about what your spirituality is. We unpack, well, what does love really mean to us, right? We unpack, well, what are my real needs? What do I need? A lot of times, like you were saying earlier, how you give, you're kind, but do you get? Do you ask for it? Do you take care of yourself? Or is it continuously about giving and being out there? And at what point do we look at self care? And self care is a spiritual process, a spiritual practice. You have to put it in there in the sense that we take care of our mental health. We were talking about the therapy. So let's shift there and talk about the impact for you. What have you seen happen as you've done the therapy? You say it's going to be there for the rest of your life. What
In
impact?
some form or fashion.
Yeah, I got. We. That's how I shifted off and started talking
Right.
about something else when you
Because
said
I rate
it.
5 bags of leaves Sunday morning, and that was therapeutic for
Yeah,
me. I was
exactly.
out there with nature. I got my hands in the
Mhm.
dirt and the
Mhm.
leaves.
Mhm.
That was therapeutic. So I will
Mhm.
be in some form of therapy all my life.
Mhm.
And you spoke about yoga. So let me go back.
Mhm.
So my new office, the space is so big. I first thought this could be a yoga studio. So I
Well.
have my office, I have all this open space.
Mhm.
So I'm actively writing grants to hire a yoga instructor to come and teach the residents or
Mm.
whoever wants to come for
Mhm.
free.
Okay.
If you
Okay.
can make it up those 28 steps,
Oh my God, you're on the top floor.
I'm on the top floor. I got you on yoga. Yoga is free.
You said if you could get here.
You can get here, I got you. Yeah, so that's what
Wait. You might
I'm
have to
working on
put
now.
if you had put one of those, the rolling chairs that roll up the side of the banister at the
That reminds me of one of those scary movies. I don't remember which one.
those for if you want to offer yoga for seniors and say, guess what? We have this chair that'll roll you up the floor. It would take like 30 minutes to get everybody up to the class, right?
You know what? That's a good idea. So I need to add that into it as well.
Yeah. I don't know if add that into it because I don't know if you could get them to put an elevator in at this point, but you could get some mobility. Oh, and maybe it could go under the whole thing of accessibility. You know how
Right.
they want everybody to
Exactly.
have, you have to have that place set up for everybody to get in there. There are
Right.
rules around accessibility, so maybe you can get some money around that.
And so if I can get a grant, I don't own the building. I'm a
Mhm.
renter, so I'm limited to what I can do, but
Mhm.
that's my plan. And in addition to yoga, Pilates,
Oh, okay.
Reiki, I had a
Mm.
Reiki massage a couple of weeks ago.
Oh, okay. Was that
And
your
so
first time?
it was my first time really knowing what I was doing. The first time was at a health fair
Mm.
and I just got on the table. I didn't know what to expect and
Mm.
the
Mhm.
instructor didn't explain it well.
Mm.
But this time was wow. It was a wow experience.
Mm. Mhm. And that's pretty cool because talking about alternative energy healing ways of relaxing the body, finding peace. Reiki is one of those forms of just like massage, but you think how many people are aware of Reiki and understand, the
Right.
impact. But it's really popular. So that is really good when we think about the different self-care modalities, and that's what
Right.
we're talking about. We talk about self-care, right, in many ways, and I always talk about self-care in mind, body, and in spirit.
Right.
In all those three areas of our lives, we have to look at and take care of them individually and pay attention to what's going to support you in your mind, your body, and your spirit. And sometimes one part may be going really well, but then what's happening in the body part, so it's like a
Right.
balancing act of really getting the practices
Right.
that really support us in, I always say, in living my best life, right?
Right.
What are those practices? So what I heard also is, so let's talk about Mitchell Consulting.
Okay.
So you're a grant writer. So Mitchell Consulting is a profit company, right?
Yes.
So when you write the grants, you have a 501c3 that you're connected to
I
get
do
the
not have a 501c3. And what I'm finding is because I'm in this network now, there are so many grants for African American women, and you don't have to be a
grant. Oh,
501c3.
you don't.
No.
So what do you have to be? I mean, and that's information that's really relevant. So if you don't have to be a nonprofit to get the grants, what are some of the
I'm a
rules?
sole proprietor, so
Okay.
I'm gonna give, and Hello Alice needs to give me some money, but I'm gonna give them a plug. So
Mhm.
I follow them, and Hello Alice
Mhm.
sends out grant announcements weekly.
Mhm.
And the times that I'm not serving my client,
Mhm.
I'm taking advantage and writing a grant, completing
Mhm.
the grant application.
Mhm. Mhm.
So I do that weekly.
Okay. Okay.
hmm
So that's good. And so Mitchell Consulting.
Mitchell Consulting, I am a cultural connector.
Wow, that's some words, girl.
I
Break
got
it
some
down.
words for you.
A cultural connector. And so if I called you up, Miss Mitchell Consulting, how might you support me?
So here's how I got started. Maybe 15 years ago, I worked for a developer
Mm-hmm.
in the area that I live in, which is uptown. And for your listeners, think of The Blind Side. If you've ever watched the movie The Blind Side with Michael Orr, he lived in Hurt Village.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's the area that I live in. And that's also the area that um, underwent some redevelopment. It was part of the Hope Six redevelopment.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And so I work for the developer who
Okay.
doesn't look like me. He's
Mm-hmm.
wealthy
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and another color. And
Mm-hmm.
so he has visions and ideals. So he needed someone to tell the vision, tell the story to the residents in the
There was like
majority minority
mm-hmm.
neighborhood.
Mm-hmm.
So that made me a cultural connector.
Mm-hmm.
And for I'll say about two or three of my other clients, I do the same thing. They're developers, they're developing in downtown and around the city. And when it comes time to tell their story and their vision or to get approval, they contact me.
Mm-hmm.
And I tell it to the residents in the way that they understand. And I
Mm-hmm.
also make sure, okay, you want to come in and do this, but how does this benefit this majority minority community? So I
Mm-hmm.
listen to what they want,
Mm-hmm.
take it back to the developer,
Mm-hmm.
and we come in the middle.
Mm-hmm.
So
That
that's a lot of what I do.
mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So it's like a community liaison.
Yes. But
Mm.
cultural connector sounds better.
Okay. Yeah, a cultural connector. Yeah, that's great. I love that. And when I
Yeah.
said community liaison, I started to move to like how do you serve your community? One aspect of you. Yeah, I guess that's the question.
That's the question. And I also serve on some boards. For example, the Memphis River Parks Partnership. I'm no longer on that board, but when I was, the riverfront is going through a major uh,
Mm-hmm.
redevelopment. When you come back to Memphis next year, you're going to go to the river and say, wow.
Mm-hmm.
But so often, people in our community say, well, that's not for us. And I'm like, what do you mean it's not for you?
Mm-hmm.
They think the improvements and everything are for somebody else. And
Mm-hmm.
so that's another part of my job, saying, look, all these amenities, resources, opportunities, they are for you. And
Mm-hmm.
for so long, we have been neglected by the government, even by police, code enforcement, elected officials.
Mm-hmm.
We've been so neglected that we don't feel that anything is for us
Right there, right, right.
because
I
they
was.
didn't contact us to get our opinion or to invite us.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's what I do. I'm like, yeah, this is for you.
Mhm. It was interesting because I was thinking about with the political landscape that's currently there, right? Um, do you have any political aspirations, or do you see yourself like what role? I mean, as the cultural connector, right?
Uh-huh.
That's it, right? What role do you see yourself?
I have none. I am approached all the time. Tandra, will you run for city council? Tandra, nope. I'm a behind the scenes type of girl.
Mhm.
And I don't want everybody in my business. So
It's
if you know what I mean?
it's too much, right? It's
It's
too
too
public,
much.
right? Yeah, everybody have to know everything about you, right?
And I work better behind the scenes. And
Mm-hmm.
that also, I'm so excited. I'm working with 92NY. Are you familiar with that organization?
No, I saw something about it, but I don't know what is that.
So that's an organization based out of New York where you are,
Mm-hmm.
and they work to bring people together. And so they're doing a Tennessee pilot because Tennessee is so divided, race, gender, economics. Um, and so we're having conversations. A few of us were selected in Tennessee to have conversations around issues that keep us divided. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm really excited about that.
Mm-hmm.
That's going to start early 2023.
Okay.
And
And
so
so,
my goal is to get people of different backgrounds, Black, white, Jews, uh, young, old,
mm-hmm.
Republicans, Democrats.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm having to think over the holidays of a discussion topic of
Mm-hmm.
what do I want to talk about,
Mm-hmm.
to get us to all come together and understand each other.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that in terms of the project. Now, this 92NY is what kind of organization is it?
It's a social organization
Okay. Okay.
based out of New York. Yeah, and this is what they do:
They.
bring people together, have conversations. Let's talk about
Oh, okay, okay, I get it. Okay, okay.
it.
Now I was
Mhm.
like, okay, I was trying to put together the as we were talking about what the political landscape. I know you don't want to do that, but you interact with a lot of politicians,
Oh, I do. I do.
right? So you would
They
prefer.
come to me for advice, and
Mhm,
if something is not right, I go to them.
mhm,
And I teach our residents, look, you pushed a button and you voted for this person. And
mhm,
that person said they wanted to serve you.
mhm,
Hold them accountable.
mhm,
I mean, it's just that simple. I
mhm,
hate when politicians come into the neighborhood election time and you don't see them until it's 4 years later.
mhm,
So
mhm,
that's part of the empowerment that I do.
mhm. Yeah, like I was like really working with the community on both ends because you speak the language and talk to the
Right.
people in the community, and you're able to translate that to get their needs heard also.
That's right.
Right. Yeah. And that's really good. We need a lot of that going on. And when we look in the news though, Memphis is portrayed as like t- yeah, crime. I'll just say, so many levels, right? And when it doesn't impact me, and it doesn't really, hasn't really come close to impacting my family, all the crime and all that's happening in Memphis. What do you see any shifts? What do you think needs to happen, right? So then I know you're working within your one community. What kind of shifts? And you had spoken earlier about having contacts with the police. What kind of
Mhm.
shifts do you think need to happen, just even in your small community, to make that difference?
We do need, I'm a believer, I'm a firm believer in community policing.
Mm,
Um, parenting skills.
Hmm. That's interesting. You went to parenting because, hmm. So what comes to mind is that everything we see with the young people, we're going to hold the parents accountable at this point.
And the parents, so who are going to help the parents? And the
Right.
parents, then poverty comes in. They're
Mm-hmm.
not making enough money.
Mm-hmm.
They're having to leave the kids alone while they work 2 and 3 jobs. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
it's a domino effect. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
that's a whole nother show we could talk about all next year. How do we unpack that and break that down?
Yeah, the whole because it just came to mind. I always think about, well, who's helping the parents, right? Because
Who's helping the parents?
I thought
Right.
about that during when COVID happened and all those kids went home and everybody went home. Parents were not prepared
They were not.
to handle that whole everybody's at home, let's go to school thing, right?
Right.
And we talk.
Parents had to become teachers and do algebra. I mean, could you do some algebra right now if you had to?
Well, I was a math major, yes.
Well, so probably you could.
Right. I could do algebra the way we did algebra, but the way they're
It's
doing math
changed.
is yeah, right. So I am not gonna say that I could teach the new way that they're doing it. I could
Right.
get some answers based on my way, right?
Right.
There's a whole new way that they're doing it, right?
And
But
COVID did a number on all of us.
everybody. And I always thought, as we look at the support now that we're giving the kids in the schools, they're trying to get more social workers there to support the kids. And kids are resilient too, right? But the trauma for the parents who had to go through that, what support do they have,
What
right?
support do they have?
And as I listened to you, it was like, well, parenting, well, these kids are the way they are because of the parents.
And the parents are the way they are because of what?
The parents before them, right? I guess you gotta say the parents before them, right? It's just not just that. That's the whole.
Right,
It's not
exactly.
just that, right?
Right.
Because there's so many other factors involved. We could talk about social media is now the parent. I mean, not the parent. Social media has the attention. Being online, TikTok, all of that.
I
Facebook,
mean, all of
wherever they
that.
go. Because I'm online too. I'm not saying that I'm not on there with them,
Right.
right? So it's a whole shift because then I have to say, oh, I go in the morning, but then put it down, or it will be a constant thing in your hand, right?
Right. And it's information overload.
Information overload is so much. It's like we've got to the point where if you want to know anything, it's like, oh, well, just go ask Google, right? And then you go in there and you go down the rabbit hole because Google will take you to 50,000 things about it, right?
Right. My
So,
friends laugh at me because I said I get my news from Baller Alert on Instagram, and that's not good. But it's the truth. I mean, if I want to know, you,
baller alert, right?
yeah, they need to give me some money too. I just
Yeah.
gave them a plug. Right.
But we all have our ways, and as you said, it's parents plus. We can't just.
Right.
But I remember a long time ago, my spiritual advisor said that as a parent, you really only have 10% impact on your kid.
Mm,
Only 10% when you think about all the other influences that are out there,
right.
right? I'd like to think maybe more. You have to be a strong 10%.
That's
Right?
what I was just thinking about that. I'm like, you
Oh my
gotta be a hell of a
God.
10%. Wow.
Yeah, yeah. But just think about it from 10%. But really think about all the influences out there or that come into play that create who we are or who we become in the world. Even the things that happen to us as you're thinking about going to hell. I'll use that as an example. You probably still think that sometimes.
Oh, I do.
Yeah,
If I
I'm
do
just
something
saying.
that I don't have any business doing, I'm like,
Mhm.
now am I gonna go to hell?
Right. But it's just like you heard that as a kid and it still plays out in your life,
It really
It
does. It
plays
does.
out. I just use that as one example, but there's so many things that we hear and things that happen that just play out and we keep living them, over and
Right.
over again. So,
And I think about women a lot too.
mhm.
Um, with all these, what is it, BBLs, BB what?
Well, oh,
Everybody is transforming their bodies. Now I'm
oh,
transforming mine, but it's via personal trainer. And I
but
will never look like some of the images that I see on TV. But for me, working out makes me feel good. I mean,
mhm,
I look better in my clothes, but what it does for my mental health as well.
mhm, mhm.
Yeah.
Well, so are you close to? Do you know any people? What do you think about this BBL, BBM? What
Well,
you
I
call
mean,
it?
people to each his own.
Right. You have mentioned it, so it's a new phrase, a
I'm
new
just thinking about, what made me think about
trend.
that
It's a
when
trend.
it's a trend, and
Mhm.
thinking about during COVID when the children were having to learn virtually. And if their parent was not there 10%, if their parent was thinking about how am I gonna get this money to get this body so I can do X, Y, and Z. I mean, it's really a whole mess when you think about it.
But yeah, it's so interesting too because what came to my mind is there's a certain culture of people that we're talking about, right? Or
Right.
because it's not like across all black people,
It's not.
but I get that when we look at the entertainment world and we look
Mhm.
there because there's a lot of influence there, right? So
Right.
I think it started there with the Cardi B and the Little Kim
Right.
and all those people. That's where it started, and then it became. It's like really crazy right now. Everybody is going and getting. It's BB. What is it? BBL.
You know what? That lets you know how I don't even know what it is because I don't know the correct. Let me Google it.
It's a BBL, Brazilian butt lift. That's what it is. Brazilian butt lift.
But
That's
then
what it is.
where's the one where you can get the tummy tuck included and the breast lift? What do you call that?
Oh, I have no
I
idea.
know we have to Google that, but
Right. But it's
that
the whole thing about image. It's the whole thing
image,
about
right? And
and
that took me back to parenting. So, are we more focused on our image or raising our children? And
right,
if where's that 10% going that
right,
you said a
right.
parent has?
And I think we're looking at a segment too because we're looking at the violence and the kids that are out of control.
Oh
So
my
there's a whole
God.
segment of them that are just like out of control right now. And so we're trying to say, so what happened to them? What's going on now that's causing so many young people to want to pick up guns? They want to have the violence. What's happening right now? Right? And there's so many other things than just parenting, I would say.
Right.
So
What's
that's
going on
why I
in the
said
home? What's going on in the school? What's going on
what's
in
going
your
on everywhere.
neighborhood?
Exactly.
What's
So
going on in your church?
exactly. In the church, I wonder what the influence of the church, and I always talk to people about that because we all went to church when we were kids, right? Church was the place where they contained you. They told you you were going to hell, so they
That's
ruled you.
right. They
So
control
you
you. Right.
followed those rules, and you got
Right.
some. But You also got basic living principles, right? About love your neighbor, don't commit crimes,
Thou
don't
shalt not
steal.
kill. You can't,
Yeah, so
yeah,
you got,
steal.
yes, you did get those basic life principles, right? That we operated out of. So if kids are going to the church and getting those basic life Ten Commandment principles that we lived by, right?
From social media.
What and that's how we could see things changing in the way things are happening now.
So how do we fix it? Last week I was certified. I was ACEs certified, adverse childhood experiences.
Hmm.
And when I think about the loss that I suffered, I was like, dang, maybe I had some adverse childhood experience. I
Yeah,
mean, I
trauma.
did.
Yeah,
That's trauma.
yeah, we all had trauma, right? And
Right.
recognizing that trauma is the key to supporting you in living your life, because if you live through the trauma, if you live your life through all that trauma, then you're experiencing life as trauma
Right.
mostly, right?
And my thing, the reason I wanted to become certified, because it is a problem with the juvenile crime,
Okay.
not only here in Memphis but nationwide. And
Hmm.
I want to know how can I help?
Hmm. Hmm.
What can I do? Because I just can't say, oh yeah, we have a problem with juvenile crime and not do anything about it. What
Hmm.
can I do? How can I help?
And
And
I think what comes to mind is even in your little uptown community, right? As you think about,
it's not a little
I
uptown
mean,
community.
your big uptown community, I call it little based on the world. Okay, now
Okay.
in your community, as you were talking about the yoga and all that, we could shift it to how you could support youth also, right?
Right.
And even they'll come up to 28 flights, right?
Oh yeah, they'll run up there.
Yeah, so I mean that's just the thought.
That's a good idea.
And you also write grants, right? And so maybe you could shift the focus to some kind of youth grants, money to come
Right.
in from that perspective. So that way, and when I say your little community, I say if you could help people in that community, then you're doing a great support, because every
Right.
little bit helps, right? If you can help
Right.
one person, they was like, if I can just touch one somebody, remember that song?
Right.
Then
Then my living won't be in vain. Yeah.
right, exactly. So that's what I say, even starting on that small scale. And I didn't realize that you were a grant writer. And I know for a fact there are lots and lots of grants out there.
Oh my God, yes. I follow some lady on Instagram, and at least once a week, she tells you if you're black and a woman, you need to apply for this grant. And I do.
So many grants. And so
Yeah.
we need to like make the community aware of that. Let people know, how do we, we talk about where's the money, we need the money for this. There is money, and a grant writer in a community can be very important.
And
Very, very.
hopefully you have some angel investors uh listening to your show,
Mhm.
and with some deep pockets, and they just may want to say, here Tanja, here Mitchell
Here's some money.
consultant.
Here's money. Well, Mr. Consultant, declare how much money do you want to make this year? I do this thing with Jasmine where she is a resume writer, a career coach. So every month we declare, and she works full time. So this is the side hustle, the real, that can grow. It's called a side hustle. But every month, how much money do you want to make this month? We say at the top. And making that declaration. We say at least this much, and she hits it, Tanja. So it's just how much money do you want to make with Mitchell Consulting?
I'm
Think
gonna think about that
yeah,
tonight.
yeah, and even if we just do it on a monthly basis, if you can't think about it as
Right.
hard as this million in a year, if you could just think about it on a level of how
On
much
a
you want to make
month.
this month, at least this much this month, and make it at least opening it up to make more.
Right. And you are absolutely right. I don't think of it in terms of dollar amount. I think of it in terms of my lifestyle. I want to be able to continue to travel when I need to get away from
Mm-hmm.
everybody.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I'm an empty nester.
Mm-hmm.
I don't even know if I know how to cook anymore.
Mm-hmm.
You
Mm-hmm.
know,
Mm-hmm.
so that's how I think of it. So I think of it in terms of my lifestyle, but I will put a figure to
Oh,
that.
yeah.
But I'm telling you, I've really been focused on grants to help our people. That's been my main focus right now. Not about me, but
Right.
helping
Mhm.
a
The
whole lot of people.
okay,
Because
I
we
love
need it. We
yeah.
need it.
Hmm. Okay, that is really good, and I think it's important for our people and for us to know that that money is out there.
That's right. Oh, I wish I had her name.
And to understand that it is there and how to properly get the money. Because what comes to mind is during when they were giving the money away for COVID, how many people were deceptive in their
I
businesses,
know.
and and so
You
yeah,
got to do it the right way.
exactly. And teaching people how to get the money the right way. When you get the grants, there are deliverables. You can't, there are things, and being able to unpack what those deliverables are and say, yes,
Right.
I can meet these deliverables if I am
Exactly.
given this money. Yes, these are the people that I would need to execute these deliverables. Really understanding
Right.
how to implement the grant. Okay, you get the money, that's fine. But then the next stage is how to use it wisely, how to implement the whole
And you have to report right.
it,
So what I'm gonna do is when I find this young lady on Instagram, when she posts again, I'm gonna tag you just so you'll have her name.
okay, great. And then like we can continue to share and continue to let people know what's available to them and
That's
how they
right.
can live their best life. That's what we're talking about, right? Enjoy and activating that joy that's there, you know?
That's right.
Yeah. So it's been great having you tonight. The time just went by. I think we
Didn't it?
have a
And I
lot
was
of
like,
stuff.
Lord, what am I gonna talk about for a whole hour? But once we start talking, it just flows.
Yeah, I know. It's sometimes we think about what are we going to talk about, but yeah, it was great having you here, and I think the things that I think stood out for me was being able to take care of your mental health, your spiritual, as we said, mind, body, and spirit, right?
That's right. I wanted to say one thing. I know we have 2 minutes. You talked about love.
Mm-hmm.
And that song came to my mind. I want to know what love is. But
Mm-hmm.
so because I was a single mom, and taking care of everyone else, I don't think I knew how to let somebody love me.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm giving that a try now.
Oh, okay. So and you're opening up to be loved. You probably closed down too after all that trauma as a little kid,
Yes.
right?
So
And
I'm excited about just okay, love
love
me.
me.
I'm
Oh, yeah.
ready.
What that look like, right?
Right.
Well, and it's interesting you say that because do people recognize that they aren't open for love?
Exactly.
Did you really know that you were open, or you just like it was your bad luck that you didn't receive love or have the man that
Exactly.
you want? When in reality you were never yourself open for it.
Right. So I'm
Yeah.
open now. Bring it on.
Okay. That's exciting. To understand that, and I always say the more you love yourself, the more you open up for others to love you.
And so you see how it works. I've been loving myself,
Hmm.
getting the mental, getting the therapy, doing the
Hmm.
physical. I've been loving on me.
Hmm.
And so now it is easier for me to receive love.
Yeah, that is exciting, and that's a great way. As we started out talking about love, and then we can close out with, because, as we said, it's like the connector for everything.
Yes.
And if we can understand it, and from there's romantic love, like I love everyone, and I could say from that perspective, a broader, unconditional, just love you because
Hmm.
I love you and I hope the best, right? But then we talk about special love, right? You know, like, oh,
Yeah.
I love my grandson. Oh, that boy brings joy to my heart.
Oh my God. Mine too.
Yeah, and so there's just like love. I love my husband, and then you talked about unconditional love. Do we really have unconditional love, or do we place conditions? And you're not opening up to love had a lot of conditions around it,
Exactly.
right? If we talk about love from that perspective, how conditional is it? If you treat me good, I'm gonna love you. If you're not, I'm not gonna love you. So the practice of loving no matter what is that
Right. Right.
unconditional. Yeah.
I'm
So
excited about that. I
yeah,
mean,
I'm
that's new
excited
for
for you
me.
too. Yeah, it's new, and it seems like it feels like you're ready to embrace it and be open to it.
Yes.
Yeah, so I'm gonna have to check. I'm gonna keep in touch with you about this opening it for love and see this love
Okay.
flow all over you, right?
Okay.
All right, thank you, and I
Thank
love
you.
you, and thank you for showing up. And I'll be in touch.
Okay.
Bye. Thank you for joining me tonight on Conversations with Reverend G. I'm here every Monday night, WEMS Radio Live. We're on the WEMS app, we're on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitch. You can see us here every Monday night at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time with guests from all walks of life. We talk about love, we talk about life, and we talk about spirituality. You can find me every day on Facebook as Reverend Grenetta Mason. I'm on Instagram as Rev Grenetta. And I have inspirational messages to support you throughout the day. I will see you again right here next week. And my goal is to support you in finding that joy and living your best life with grace and ease. Love yourself and love on somebody this week. And I will see you next week.